Hollywood's had a rough go of it in 2023 with the ongoing strike, which apparently the actors and the studio heads met today. Maybe something will come out of that. Who really knows and who really cares at this point in time? The writer strike going on for a long, extended period of time throughout the year. What were they out there for? The better part of 6 months. And then, yes, all of their big tentpole films, outside of 2 of them, ending up making money. Like, it's been bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb after bomb. And well, we'll eventually get to another one. I feel like DJ Khaled out here for a second. And another one. They not the best anymore. They ain't even close to being the greatest. I'll stop. But instead of focusing in on what works and potentially curtailing their future plans around that, no, it's everybody else who's the problem. Or you'll just go ahead and pass off the blame to a different type of fatigue. But like I said, we'll eventually get to that stuff. But what's going on right now? Is there anything that we can take away from this? Well, of course there is. Will they, though? Well, it's Hollywood, baby. They're going to end up taking the wrong lessons from what is currently on display. Weekend box office hits a near annual low. Near annual low? So there's actually been a worse weekend than this one right now. And with, the holiday season just about to, well, in some places with, it coincides with the beginning of November. Heading into the holiday season, you would think that people would have more time. The temperatures are dropping everywhere. I know that a few places are hot, but you would anticipate people wanting to go to the theater to go see something. So you would have thought that, there wasn't anything else that could be comparable, but there was actually a worse weekend than this one. Holy. But anyways, in a Duneless frame, as strike continues, Freddy's leads with $17+ million. Duneless. Well, what do they mean by that? Dune Part 2 was supposed to come out, because the first one came out in 2021, early 2021. It's kind of funny because it was also following a similar model, or release model the first time around, as Five Nights at Freddy's is done. Okay, so the ramification of the actor strike at this weekend's box office continues to be felt. Yet this is one where you can actually, specifically point to it and go, yes, the strike did end up affecting this because, well, Dune, a big ensemble cast. You got Zendaya. Is Oscar Isaac still in it? I didn't watch the first one. I don't know the Dune story. Nothing against Frank Herbert. It's just I don't know the source material and it never really attracted me to it. But the people that they're pointing out, right? Yeah, Zendaya, Timothy Chalamet, Austin Butler, and Florence Pugh. But yeah, Josh Brolin, Oscar Isaacs was in there. Christopher Walken. It's like, there's actually like a lot of really high-profile people attached to this. A lot of charismatic individuals that you could set out there to promote your film. So Warner Brothers, if not for Disney's current 2023 trajectory, would still be the dumbest studio in all of Hollywood. But I think the House of Mouse has kind of taken that, as is shown in the latter half of this video. But sales over the weekend, plummeted to $58.3 million, which is currently the third lowest. The third? Yo, what the fuck? Anyways, remember legendary Warner Brothers, Zendaya, Timothy Chalamet, Austin Butler, Florence Pugh. Sequel, Dune 2 was originally set to play this weekend, and with it, its departure of at least $50 million. I would kind of think that it would be a little bit more than that because, Dune Part 1 had pretty good word of mouth, and because it had day-and-date release with HBO, I think it had streaming services attached to it to begin with. I can't remember which one. It's so hard to keep track of all of these. Was it on the Tubi TV? I think it was on Max the same day that you could go and check it out in the theater if you wanted to, so that ended up, goofing around on the box office. But now with the release of Five Nights at Freddy's, which was the top pick of this weekend, well, you can go ahead and you can cry over spilt milk there, but you could take a look at the example of Five Nights at Freddy's cracking $100 million only 1 week into its box office run. And oh yeah, it also had a day-and-date release date, which is absolutely wild. Yeah, becoming one of few titles with such a dynamic distribution model to do so alongside Black Widow. That makes sense. It was the first of Stage 4, if you do recall, of the Marvel Cinematic what do we have left-averse. Dune, yes, Godzilla and Kong and Jungle Cruise. Oh yeah, Godzilla versus Kong. Right, yeah, a big monster movie. It's like, okay, you kind of want to go to the theater to see that spectacular, or that spectacle rather, and then Jungle Cruise. All right, that was that rock film that went absolutely nowhere at the speed of smell. Interesting. Not the last time that we're going to be talking about a rock film that didn't do very well. The bad news is that the movie's availability in the home and Peacock paid subs, plus a massive young adult leaning nature of the IP. Yeah, we're talking about Five Nights at Freddy's, and it's kind of, it's very interesting, right? Because there's going to be this undercurrent as well, because there's been good word of mouth in regards to Five Nights at Freddy's. Now, it isn't quite a one-to-one situation to something that happened earlier this year as well. That was an independent film that ended up getting released, but if you don't know all of the backstory of Five Nights at Freddy's, and I've never played any of the games, all I know is that there was a little bit of controversy around that because the creator of the wildly successful indie game came out as somewhat as a conservative. The company that ended up acquiring his IP tried to cancel him, and then he just ended up going, okay, deuces, I'm just leaving this shit dick industry, and I'm just going to go ahead and, take look after my kids. I think he maintained the rights or something like that. And yeah, it's not independently released horror film that's completely and totally taking off. And yes, of course, it has the added benefit of being released in, on, and around Halloween. So yeah, of course, it cracks $100 million. It's the most prominent horror film that's out there right now. Totally makes sense. But given the conservative lean that they don't kind of want to tell you about, but there's something there if you're looking for it, well, we had another situation like this. And if this film, with its good word of mouth, does continue to go on and grow into next week with another big release that's out there, we could have another Indiana Jones Sound of Freedom situation on our hands, where you have a big opening weekend, and then you have the little independent, I know it's Universal, NBC Universal, okay, one of the three big networks, one of the big Hollywood studios back in it, but it's a relatively small budget, a fraction of what the Marvels is going to have, and oh boy, this is not good. This is something I've talked about time and time again whenever we're discussing the Marvels. Well, I do think it'll ultimately end up winning out. I've thought on this very, very hard. With the two superhero films that are going to be closing out 2023, you have sequels to billion-dollar movies in Captain Marvel and Aquaman 2. Are we heading to a situation, and I also talked about this the last time as well, there's at least a little bit of goodwill. Obviously, there's that turd lurking right at the top when it comes to Aquaman 2, but people generally like Jason Momoa. I don't think that he's ever said anything untowards to anybody. He's got a general charismatic presence and general likability. People will go and see something that he's in. Case in point with the first Aquaman. Nobody knows how in the hell that ended up making as much money as it did, but it ultimately did at the end of the day. It's not quite the same situation that you could have for Captain Marvel. One of the first widely criticized Marvel films at the time benefited from being one of those things that was told to you by the people at Marvel that said, hey, you have to go watch this film. If you want to understand the context that'll be missing between Infinity War, Avengers Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame, you need to go see this. It was sandwiched in between the two most anticipated films in the most successful film franchise of all time. So it benefited from excellent marketing that way. This time around, now at the tail end of an atrocious 2023 for Disney and Marvel as well, now that everybody's just openly taking shots at it with South Park and the Variety article as well, stock prices completely and totally plummeted. And as much as I've taken shots at old little Ronnie DeSantis, if he would have launched his lawsuit right now against Disney, might have actually helped his campaign, but nothing at this point in time is going to help that disaster zone. But I think we're getting real close. More numbers that we're starting to see about this, revised projections where it's looking maybe at best domestically, it ends up making $50 million throughout its entire run. It might be hopeful, incredibly hopeful, to make $250 million, $250 million in its entire worldwide box office run. That's going to be tough, man. Because what's the appeal of the Marvels? Oh, wow, you get women on women violence. Okay, cool. You could go down to, on Black Friday, you can go down to the shops and you can see that, two fat bitches just beating the brakes off of each other for a fucking $5 floor mat. Like, who gives a shit about this stuff? Okay? There's no general likability. Like, okay, whenever anybody, just tried to give a little bit of soft praise to this ensemble cast that they have, They're like, yeah, the chick, the Kamala Khan chick, she hasn't said anything. She's like, it seems generally nice, but the rest of it's like the black chick, who the fuck is that? And then Brie Larson. I don't even need to bring up the amount of baggage that this bitch brings to this production. Like, unless it's promised that she's going to be getting her titties out in this film, nobody's going to see this. Case in point. The Marvel's ticket pre-sales. Now, place it lower than two of DC's biggest box office bombs. That's not good. I know which two films that they're talking about. One is one of the biggest catastrophic bombs, not just of this year, but of all time. What some people think is the most expensive film ever made. It's tracking worse than that. And we're looking at, also, if we're being completely honest about the budgets, pretty similar, probably within a couple of dozen $1 million, which should be something. It used to be something in Hollywood, but now it's just a rounding error. It's like they work for the fucking Biden administration. And another one, like I said, keep a pin in that. We're going to be talking about The Rock in the future, but this is what we're doing right now, okay? While already expected to be one of the franchise's lowest box office openings. Yeah, not adjusted for inflation, not anything like that, man. Okay, we're looking at The Incredible Hulk in 2008, the Edward Norton, back when Edward Norton was Bruce Banner. You're looking at that opening weekend, the second film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and here we are on the 33rd installment, looking at all-time lows. It's dead. It is absolutely dead. The Marvel's ticket pre-sales place the Marvel Cinematic Universe sequel that lower than two of DC's extended universe's biggest bombs. The movie acts as a sequel to, yes, Captain Marvel in 2019, but that film made $1 billion. Okay, if you were thinking that you could go ahead and replicate that success because we'll finally got a woman on the screen, why'd you make it an ensemble film? Why'd you shuffle it around every single time? Why is it every time that we hear anything about the pre-production, post-production, the production in and of itself, it looks like it's been mixed up more than the little balls in the center of the Hungry Hippos game? I mean, brother. Tell me you don't know what you're doing without having to tell me you don't know what you're doing. Marvels will see, the three heroes that I already mentioned, Monica Rambeau, Kamala Khan, and Carol Danvers, I'm sorry, she worked really hard for that Captain Marvel moniker. She got sprayed with goo and got abducted by the Kree. With less than a week remaining until its release, Deadline has revealed new ticket pre-sales numbers for the Marvels. The MCU sequel is currently tracking for around $70 million in its opening weekend. That must be worldwide, or is that domestically? Like, that's on the super high end of estimates. Like, some box office gurus are saying, somewhere between 50 and 75 million. Others are saying, 50 is going to be the high water mark, but 75 days before release? Yeah, okay. And its opening weekend, not only behind the franchise's worst reviewed movie, The Eternals, but that one literally saved lives, according to interviews from the red carpet. I'm so upset that we're not going to be getting any red carpet interviews for this, but oh well. Which opened to $71.2 million. So it's tracking behind that. It's tracking behind that one. And it's a completely open lane right here, okay? No Dune. They have every fucking theater just begging for something to be in there. And you're coming in with $70 million. Imagine if Dune was still in the theater. Imagine they didn't move it. Like I said, Warner Brothers is the dumbest fucking company on planet Earth when it comes to Hollywood studios. They're definitely kicking their ass right now. But yes, also behind the DCEU's pair of their biggest bombs, okay? Shazam 2, obviously, I think that's the worst performing one. That and Blue Beetle. Those also came out this year, which is fucking wild to think about. DC put out 4 superhero films this year. Man, they were just looking to just shit out these projects like, fuck it. We're doing a reboot in a couple of years. So there's at least a little bit of hope, somewhat. I think that the James Gunn DCU is pretty much dead on arrival. Me and so many other people that are out there, I'm not going to try to take credit for that novel idea. It's just, assessing the landscape. But even still, like what's the hope for Marvel? We'll get to that in a second. But Black Adam, I bet you forgot that film even exists. Yeah. And that thing, when everybody came out of it, it's not like they thought, it's fine. The kid actor sucked dick. And, Henry Cavill at the end, him making a cameo as Superman, that was pretty cool. That was the word of mouth on that one. Yeah, but The Rock is big Hollywood movie star, even though you take a look at some of his releases, it's like, is he really that big of a Hollywood movie star? Is he just kind of somebody who has impeccable timing about cresting and riding the waves into the shore? think it's kind of the latter, but don't worry about it, guys. He's going to wrestle at WrestleMania 40, and he's a big superstar. It'll be great. Yeah, and The Flash, by the way. That also came out this year. Probably forgot about that, but that would be for the better. Remember, the CGI was supposed to look like that. The Dwayne Johnson-led movie opened to $67 million, while, the polarizing Ezra Miller film, and that's why he was left off of the promotional tour, and it was all about Michael Keaton. So you had a Batman-led Flash film only making $55 million, and it's trailing. It is tracking behind that. $55 million, $67 million. I think that re-estimation that we just talked about recently, in, on, and around the $50 million high watermark, I don't think that that's going to be terribly wrong. We're looking at, obviously, somewhere between $60 to $70 million opening weekend for a fucking Marvel film, bro. That was unheard of. Even though the writing quality had completely and totally dropped off a cliff in the previous few years. Thinking about this time last year would be totally unthinkable. Fucking Wakanda Forever. I was going to say Black Panther 2, but no, I don't think that that's the official name. But yeah, Wakanda Forever came out, and that did fine. Nobody talks about it anymore, and that just came out 1 fucking year ago. I'm sure we're going to be getting that Ironheart series any fucking day now. But I think even that made $700 million or something like that. It made money. Not a lot, though. Should have made $1 billion with all of that shame marketing that, if you don't go, it's going to be racist, and you have to go in order to celebrate the life of Chadwick Boseman. And it's like, okay, cool, so I want to be degraded and depressed to go see a film. Fucking fantastic stuff. And that one, apparently, from the people that reviewed it, just went on and on and on and on and on. But that's not anything that's going to be happening this time around. 88-minute runtime, baby. And then stick around for the Fox X-Men cameo in the post-credit scene. Oh, this thing is gonna fucking die at the box office, bro, because this is going to be the best performing weekend, and it has nothing in the competition, and it also has nothing in the way of good word of mouth behind it. We've seen the plot leaks, we've seen all the attacks on Marvel and Disney, we've seen all of the lack of goodwill, lack of support for the Hollywood writers, or for the actor strike that's going on right now. So when you get something that's at least a little bit unique, and Five Nights at Freddy's taking over the box office again, cracking $100 million as a lesser franchise, what do you think Hollywood's going to ultimately end up learning from this Marvel's tanking situation? Well, the time of the superhero is done. Superhero fatigue has fully set in, and even the gods of Hollywood can bleed. Full steam ahead on video game adaptations, because that's what's selling in the box office right now. Not realizing that pared down budgets, that smaller, more condensed ideas is what ultimately is going to end up selling the day. No, just video games. The kids like the video games. You go ahead and you put them out into the box office. Oi. But with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.